Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to my channel. This is Tanush, and today we'll be discussing about the retrograde transit of Saturn in the sign of Pisces from 29th of July 2022 to 24th of November 2022. Right. So generally, this is the retrograde season wherein the slow-moving planets like Jupiter and Saturn they get retrograde during this period, and Mercury generally gets retrograde very frequently, but during this time frame it is surely getting retrograde, right? So two major planets, Saturn and Jupiter, are getting retrograde. So Saturn is already retrograde in the sign of Capricorn, right? And I made a video on that. Now Jupiter, which is the planet of optimism, which is the planet of expansion, which is the planet of many good things, so almost all the good things, Jupiter is a karaka, right? And any transit of Jupiter is quite important for everyone, because wherever Jupiter transits and wherever Jupiter aspects, all those fronts will get a lot of energy, and we can see a lot of optimism. At least the aspects of Jupiter are considered to be very good. So even though Jupiter might be badly placed in the transit, but its aspects are considered to be very good, right? So wherever Jupiter aspects, it tries to do the damage control, and hence the transit of Jupiter is considered to be very important one, right? And like I discussed, Jupiter is karaka for many important things, right? So let us understand how this transit of Jupiter, what does it signify and how is it going to impact us. I'll probably try to give a very brief explanation of how it's going to impact on each of the ascendant if the time permits, right? So let's get started off. Now Jupiter is already in the sign of Pisces, which is its own sign. It's quite comfortable. Now the sign of Pisces is quite a tricky sign because it is a natural 12th house, and it represents spirituality. It represents transition from the material realm to the spiritual realm. It also represents escapism. So whenever Jupiter comes here, Jupiter generally gets into that zone of ecstasy, wherein it doesn't like to work very hard, but it's considered generally a very good transit, right? Now Jupiter is going to go retrograde on 29th of July. It's going to go retrograde. So what happens is, so first we'll understand what is the phenomenon of retrogression. So retrogression is Earth and other planets, they are rotating around Sun in a particular orbit. So what happens is, sometimes the speed of one of the planet gets little slow, and when we view that planet from the Earth, because the speed actually comes down at certain point of time, it looks like that planet is actually traveling back, whereas the planet is actually continuing its forward motion. But when we see from Earth, it looks like the planet is actually traveling back, and that is, this phenomenon is known as retrogression. So during the retrogression, the planet, any particular planet which is going retrograde is considered to be very close to Earth, and because it is very close to Earth, the impact of the planet on Earth and earthly beings is considered to be maximum. So it actually unleashes its results much more faster and much more aggressively. So if Jupiter's current transit is good for you and Jupiter is not a functional malefic for you, then surely the positive results would get enhanced. And if Jupiter is a functional malefic, or Jupiter is not very not placed in a very good spot in your chart, or this transit of Jupiter is not good for you, I mean the transit to Pisces, then during this period we can feel the negative impact of Jupiter, right? So that will be little bit amplified, right? Now to add to that, Jupiter is getting retrograde, and during its entire tenure of retrogression, it would be in the nakshatra of Uttara Bhadrapad. and Uttara Bhadrapad is the nakshatra of Saturn. And generally, when we give any predictions, we have to see which sign that particular planet is, which nakshatra that planet is actually transiting through. So where it is situated, in which nakshatra, and where is the lord of that nakshatra, right, in transit or in the chart. So where is the lord of that nakshatra placed, and what is the situation of that particular planet. I mean, whether the planet is in a positive spot or a negative spot, how comfortable it is, because that will actually give the direction to the planet. I mean, like Jupiter is sitting in the nakshatra of Saturn, so Saturn would actually drive the direction of Jupiter, because Jupiter is transiting through the nakshatra of Saturn, right? So we need to see the condition of Saturn for sure. So Saturn right now is in the sign of Capricorn, and it is also in retrograde motion. So I made a video. So if you want to watch, the results of retrograde motion of Saturn, I'll paste the link in the description section. You can probably watch the video, right? So Saturn is in the retrograde motion in the sign of Capricorn. Not only that, Saturn is also aspecting this Jupiter with its third aspect, right? Now the third aspect of Saturn is not considered to be a easy one or a good one, right? So I also made a video on the third aspect of Saturn. I'll paste the link. So if you want to understand that, you can probably get into the description section and view the video. So Saturn is now actually giving direction to the Jupiter. It's also controlling the results of Jupiter to a larger extent, because Jupiter is in the nakshatra of Saturn. Saturn is aspecting Jupiter with its third aspect, right? So obviously Saturn is surely going to impact the way Jupiter behaves, or the way Jupiter is going to give results. Saturn surely is going to impact, right? Now this Capricorn is considered the tough side of Saturn, which we already discussed in the previous video. And whenever Saturn is in the sign of Capricorn, the expectation is that the person work extremely hard, put in a lot of efforts, be very organized, be very disciplined, persevere, and only then, after putting in a lot of effort and waiting patiently, a person will be able to achieve or get results, right? So that is the expectation of Saturn. And now Saturn is inducing the same expectations into Jupiter, right? So we have to understand that during the retrograde motion of Jupiter, we'll have to put in efforts on the fronts which Jupiter is actually owning, right? So we will see that in a while. So now what happens is, Jupiter is ready to give results very fast, but Saturn now is saying that hold on, let the person put in a lot of effort, right? Unless the person puts in a lot of effort, you should not be giving the result. And hence we'll see a lot of confusion, because Saturn is creating a boundary for Jupiter. Jupiter naturally represents expansion, but now Saturn is trying to put that boundaries to Jupiter, which Jupiter doesn't like, right? So there is a tussle between Jupiter and Saturn already, and we see a lot of confusion during this time, right? So let us try to understand what results each ascendant would be getting. So I'll not get into much detail, but I'll try to surely point out what are the important points where we actually need to take care, right? Now for Aries ascendant, Jupiter is the lord of your 9th and 12th house, and Saturn is right now in your 10th house, aspecting the 12th house where Jupiter is situated, right? So 12th house is the house of losses. One of the indication is that during this period you need to work extremely hard to curb your expenses, because expenses are going to be high. Now the second indication is because 12th house also represents travel, and 9th house, which is also owned by Jupiter, also represents travel, also represents higher learning. So if you are a student and if you are planning to travel to foreign land, to pursue your higher education, then this is a very good time because Jupiter is going to help you surely. But again, the energy of Saturn would try to put in a lot of hurdles, in your path. But if you work towards overcoming those hurdles, surely you'll be successful. You'll be able to travel to foreign land for sure, right? So don't get discouraged if things are getting delayed. With a positive mindset, try to put in efforts. Surely you'll be able to travel if you have planned to travel, right? And now people who are into spirituality, for them this is a time within to introspect whether actually they are going in the right direction or not. So quite possible that the direction in which they are going is not right. And when Jupiter gets retrograde, then actually Jupiter is going to show you that the direction in which you are going is not right. So you need to rethink, and Saturn again will actually correct your course, and then you can probably search for the right path, and surely you will get the right path during this transit of Jupiter, right? Now for Taurus, Jupiter is a lot of your 8th and 11th house. So Jupiter is a functional malefic because 8th house is Sagittarius, which is the Mool Trikon rashi of Jupiter, right? But now Jupiter is in the 11th house, which is also its own sign, and 11th house, as we know, is the house of gains. And Saturn is in the 9th house, so the lot of your bhagya or fortune or your future is in its own house, and now aspecting, right, the 11th house, which is nothing but the returns from the hard work you put in your career, right? So now this connection between 9th and 11th house represents that, because Saturn is kind of retrograde in the 9th house, you are actually getting a lot of doubts about the direction in which your future is going, or the direction in which your career is going, because Saturn is a lot of 9th and 10th house, right? It's also a lot of your career. So you're already in confusion. You are quite skeptical how your future is getting shaped up, because when Saturn actually came back in retrograde motion to Capricorn, this thoughts already might have started. And with this mindset, Saturn is aspecting the 11th house. So what it indicates that you will also be little bit worried about the returns you are getting from your current career, meaning job or business, and you might rethink of changing your job or your career during this period, right? But again, because Saturn is kind of aspecting the 11th house, you need to be a little careful about that. So probably you can wait till this energy of Saturn actually is not very prominent, meaning for another couple of months, and then you will get clarity about which direction you need to go in, right? So that is one thing. Second is, in your network circle, you might face some certain challenges, right? So it's a time for you to actually rethink about the people whom you are associating with, right? Probably your friends, your network circle, your colleagues. So this is a time where you actually rethink about your relationship with them, how valuable they are to you, and you can also sort out people who are not actually quite beneficial to you, who are actually kind of backstabbing you. So this is the period where actually this Saturn and Jupiter, this combination will actually show you, who are the people who are good and who are the people whom you need to avoid, who are actually damaging your reputation, right? So this is a time where actually it is going to show you, and surely you'll get a feeling that you are not getting enough returns from your job, right? So try to curb those feelings and wait for a couple of months, and then you will actually get that clarity, right? Now coming to Gemini ascendant, Jupiter is lot of your 7th and 10th house. So two very important Kendra houses Jupiter is owning. Right now Jupiter is in the 10th house and would go retrograde in the 10th house itself, right? And Saturn is in the 8th house aspecting Jupiter in the 10th house, right? So now this and Jupiter and Saturn both will aspect your 2nd house of wealth, which is nothing but the sign of Cancer. So this is surely going to create a lot of confusion at your job front, because Jupiter is already going retrograde in the sign of Uttara Bhadrapad, and Saturn is not in a very good spot because Saturn is actually doing its work. It's actually digging in, it's actually trying to pull out the hidden things which you need to work. That may be your health, that may be your relationship with your in-laws, that may be, things which were actually hidden from you from very long time. It may pertain to your health or it may pertain to your relationship, and now those are being uncovered, right? And now you need to work on that. Now to add to that, now Jupiter is going to go retrograde. So now this moment of Jupiter with the aspect of Saturn will give you a feeling that I'm not in the right profession and I need to change my profession because I'm not very comfortable here, and this current job or business is not yielding very good results, and you will be very apprehensive about your future as well, because Saturn transited to your 9th house and then came back to your 8th house. So a lot of confusion it's going to create, right? So my advice is just wait for Saturn to actually go direct, and then you will get a lot of clarity in your career, all right? Especially which direction you are going, whether the direction is right or not, whether you need to change your field. So all those things would be answered surely, but when actually Saturn goes direct. And when Jupiter and Saturn are aspecting your 2nd house, your money, your savings would be blocked, right? So you need to work very hard for the expenses or your savings. They may be blocked during this period, and it might create a lot of frustration. Not only that, your relationship with your extended family will also be impacted. And if there are any if your ancestral property is being discussed or is in dispute, then it's still going to create confusion further, right? So just wait for Saturn to go direct, and things will be much clear then, right? Now coming to Cancer, Saturn is the lord of your 6th and 9th house, and right now it's in the 9th house of your future, your bhagya, and Saturn sitting in the 7th house is aspecting your 9th house, right? So Jupiter is a functional malefic for you for sure, and generally for Cancer ascendant, Jupiter gives health issues if it is very badly situated in your chart, right? So just remember, if it is very badly situated in your chart, only then it gives health issues. So don't take this as a general statement, right? So now when Jupiter, which is the lord of your future, your bhagya, is going retrograde in the 9th house, in the house of your future, then this creates a lot of doubts about your future. So you will be worried a lot about your future, whether you'll be able to sustain yourself in the future, how your future is going to be, whether it would be secured, whether it would be good or bad. So all those thoughts would actually come up, because Saturn is also aspecting Jupiter, and Saturn is creating a lot of confusion. Not only that, Saturn is creating boundaries, and it might give you a feeling that I cannot go beyond certain limit. So that feeling will be quite prominent during this period. So don't worry, don't think much. So work on the issues, but don't get discouraged. Wait for Saturn to go direct, and then you will actually get a lot of clarity, and you will understand that the path in which you are going is the right one, right? So don't worry, and your health might be impacted a little bit during this period. So take care of your health. Now for Leo ascendants, Saturn is a lord of your 5th and 8th house, and right now it's in the 8th house, right? So sitting in the 8th house, actually Jupiter is trying to again help you to solve health issues. It's trying to actually solve the issues with your in-laws if you have any, and also it's also trying to secure the joint assets with your spouse or with your partner. right? And also it's trying to enhance your savings. Now when it goes retrograde and when it is actually aspected by Saturn, there is a lot of confusion on, you know, all the aspects which I just mentioned, you know. So all these areas will now be stressed, and you will now start getting doubts, you know, whether it's going in a right direction or not. So if at all you had any health issues, those health issues will be, you know, you'll see that those health issues will actually flare up little bit, or you know, you might get a feeling that your health is getting bad. Your relationship with your in-laws will actually get impacted during this period, because Saturn from the sixth house is aspecting Jupiter and creating boundaries, right? So you might get a feeling that you are actually due to your relationship with the in-laws, you are kind of bound, you know, by the relationship. You don't have that freedom, right? So that feeling might come. Don't let that feeling actually overwhelm you, because it's due to the aspect of Saturn, right? So we'll have to wait till Saturn actually goes direct, and then things will be quite clear. So if you are in the field of research, then this transit is going to be actually very good. You'll invest a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of hard work in your research, and that might actually yield you very good results when Jupiter goes direct, right? So these are the points you need to actually watch upon. Now for Virgo, Jupiter is a lot of 4th and 7th house, and two important Kendra houses again, and Saturn sitting in the 5th house is now aspecting your 7th house, right? So if you had a relationship in your marriage, or in your in your relation, basically you had any issues in your relation prior to the transit of Jupiter, meaning, you know, prior to April 2022, when Jupiter moved to a 7th house, Jupiter might have actually controlled, you know, or clarified a lot of issues, and you might have got confidence that, you know, things are moving in a very good direction. But now Jupiter is going to go retrograde, and Saturn is going to aspect again, you know, creating boundaries, right? So you might get a feeling that due to your spouse or due to your partner, you know, you are losing that freedom. And not only that, there are many other things which you might feel. If you are into business, then business partnership, then you will surely have issues with your business partner during this period. Environment at home will also not be very conducive. So just hang on till Saturn actually goes direct, right? Because Saturn is actually creating a lot of issues during this period even with your children. So wait for Saturn to go direct, and then you will actually see that, you know, things are much better. They are not as bad as Saturn is trying to show you, right? So don't see through the eyes of Saturn during this period. Just, you know, just be cool. Let Saturn go direct, and then things will be much clearer. Now for Libra ascendant, you know, Jupiter is a lot of your 3rd and 6th house, not very great houses, and Saturn right now is in the 4th house, and it is aspecting the 6th house. So when Jupiter comes to your 6th house, it's not very comfortable actually being in the 6th house, because it has to deal with many things, right? So Jupiter is a planet of higher learning, philosophy, fortune, and, you know, many good things. But when it comes to 6th house, wherein it has to take care of all the issues, it's not very comfortable, right? So Jupiter is already not very comfortable. To add to that, now Saturn is actually aspecting from the 4th house. It's aspecting Jupiter. So what's going to happen is, if you have any court cases which are going on, you will see that things are going bad, right? In those court cases. So it might give you a feeling that, you know, you're probably going to lose, but that's just a feeling, right? Keep that in mind. You'll be struggling to keep your daily routine, you know, to keep the timetable. You'll be struggling. So it might happen that, you know, one day you'll get up early at say 5 o'clock if you're used to, and the next day you probably will get up at 7 o'clock, even though you want to get up at 5 o'clock. So you'll not be able to catch up with the routine or with your expectations, right? So things are going to go out of your hand, right? You might have certain health issues related to liver or stomach, some small issues, not very big issues, and during this period especially, you'll have to be careful with your enemies, because they might create a lot of issues or hurdles. They might harm you, and that might impact you in a very long run. So you have to be careful, right? So watch out for all those things and wait for Saturn to go direct. Then things would ease off a lot. Now for Scorpio, Jupiter is a lot of second and fifth house, two very good houses, and Saturn is sitting in the third house, aspecting Jupiter, which is in the fifth house, right? If you are into share market, and you might have done quite well till now, but now when Jupiter is actually going to go retrograde and Saturn is going to aspect it, so during this period, your investments might actually go wrong, right? So you have to be extremely careful. Be very sure before you invest your money, anywhere. So be very sure, and only if you are sure, then you go for investment. Now second is, if you are involved in any relationship, then that relationship will become quite stressful during this period, because Saturn is going to again create that boundary, the feeling that you are being actually controlled, and you're not free. So all those feelings would actually now crop up, because Saturn now is actually going to do that, right? So don't take any hasty decisions. Just wait for Saturn to go direct, and then you will get a lot of clarity, right? You will also get a lot of clarity in investments, and during this period probably your investments might be blocked for some period of time, till Saturn goes direct, because Saturn is actually creating a lot of hurdles for Jupiter. Now coming to one more point is, your relationship with your children may be strained little bit during this period, and there may be some issues, some ego issues probably with your children. So be careful on that front too. Now for Sagittarius, obviously Jupiter is a lot of your ascendant. So Jupiter is a lot of first and fourth house, two very very important houses, and Saturn is in the second house right now, aspecting your fourth house where Jupiter is actually placed right now. Jupiter in the fourth house is excellent for you. It's creating the Hamsa Pancha Mahapurush yoga, and if you are running Jupiter Mahadasha, then probably you might have planned to purchase any property, but now when it is going retrograde, you might have to rethink about your plan. So you might have to rethink whether the property which you are going to purchase is the right one or not. So it applies to property and vehicles as well. You need to rethink. You need to also plan for the expenses during this period, or the investment in the property. You'll have to rethink during this period. And my suggestion is, till Saturn is aspecting Jupiter, till that period of time, don't take any decision. Although you can do the groundwork, you can do a lot of research, get all the data, and just wait for Saturn to go direct, and then you will get a lot of clarity on where to invest, and whether the investment you are going to make is a right one or not, right? Environment at home will also be little strained. Your mother's health might be little bit disturbed, so take care of your mother's health, your relationship with your mother, and environment at home, right? So take care of that, otherwise things are going to be good for you. Now for Capricorn, Jupiter is a lot of your 12th and 3rd house, so it's a functional malefic, because Sagittarius is your 12th house, right? Now because Saturn is in your ascendant in retrograde motion, right? So surely you are going through certain health issues related to your personality. You are going through that, and Saturn is actually demanding that you work upon that, right? Otherwise it's going to impact you very badly. Now Jupiter is in the 3rd house, and Jupiter being functional malefic, it is implying that you need to put in a lot of efforts in that direction, right? So for anything you undertake during this period, any new venture or any new work you start, you will have to put in a lot of efforts. You will have to put in a lot of efforts. It's not going to be a very easy one for you, right? So be patient, put in those efforts, because Saturn will make sure that you will put those efforts. Otherwise, it's not going to reward you. It's not going to reward you, right? So let it be health, let it be wealth, or any front. Let it be relationship, any front. It's not going to let you go unless you put in a lot of efforts, right? So put in efforts, be patient, wait for Saturn to go direct, and then things would be better. Otherwise, if you don't put in efforts, then Saturn is going to impact you very badly. Now for Aquarius, Jupiter is a lot of 11th and 2nd house, the two wealth giving houses, and Saturn is right now in the 12th house aspecting your 2nd house. So during this period, two things. One is your investments. If you are planning to do any investments, invest your money somewhere, then just wait, right? So once Jupiter goes retrograde and Saturn aspects it, then if you invest somewhere during this period, then you'll have to either bear losses or your money would be stuck for a long period of time. So that is one thing. Second is your relationship with your extended family. You will have to be a little careful because Jupiter might have given a very good time to you with your family, but now Saturn has come to a 12th house of losses, and Saturn is aspecting Jupiter, right? So it might create certain hurdles. So don't jump to conclusions, don't be very aggressive with your family members, so just hang on. And the same thing applies for any ancestral properties. So if you have any disputes, be patient and wait for Saturn to go direct, otherwise things are going to go very bad, right? Now for Pisces, obviously this is happening in your ascendant, right? So Jupiter is a lot of your 10th and 1st house. So again, two very good Kendra houses. Jupiter is a lot of your, two best Kendra houses. And Saturn is in your 11th house, aspecting your lagna, right? So in general, this transit is good. But when it goes retrograde, right, even Jupiter retrogression is also not bad for you. But because Saturn is aspecting Jupiter, you will have to work on your personality during this period. Also, your gains might seem to be stuck, right? And because it's a lot of your 10th house as well, right? So again, if you are expecting any promotions or any hike in the salary, so this retrograde motion actually will it's not the retrograde motion, but the aspect of Saturn is going to block that. I wouldn't say block, but it's going to delay that, procrastinate, for some period of time. So be a little patient, and then your expectation would be fulfilled, because both Saturn and Jupiter are in a very good spot for you, right? They are going to do very good for you, and this good time would be between October and December. So during this period, if you are planning for a new job, you can put in your efforts, but this is the period wherein you can actually see the results coming in. You're expecting any promotion, put in efforts, but again, be a little patient till October, and after October, or after mid of October, you will see the results coming in, right? So guys, this were my thoughts on the transit, the retrograde motion of Jupiter. So if you like the video, please subscribe to my channel. Otherwise, I'll be back with another interesting video. Thank you so much.